now we're going to turn it over to Cheng.
Cheng and Andreas will close.
I just want to thank you, everybody, particularly and our international guests and from the overseas, and the other part, just a few hours is going back to your own country. And I just want to thank you and also our American colleagues. And you, the last minute, invite us, and your presence is very much appreciated. And in the future, if FWE can do anything to improve our own country, Americans, teachers, and also any field, and we want to hope, and we wanted to engage with you. And I just wanted to, I think Ravi said very well, told me, and we need good politicians here. And if we have politicians today and see the presentation from the OECD and from the UK, and they made some wake-up call and to them. And if we don't have the politicians, and because our public school by zip code, this is the only country in the world which is we use education divide people, rich and poor, and they should be changed. And this we have to make sure, and our government politicians hear this. And because if we continue, suburbs school is different with the poor city area students, and disadvantaged population never get a change. And I really much admired the UK's study, and because they open their arm to another country and to engage with teachers exchange, and no matter. And I'm so impressed about Charlie. And 7 years ago, I met with him in his office. I asked him, Charlie, how did you do this? And his word said, courage. And so your courage is successful. And also, how did you convince your government give you 34 million British pounds to do this work? And I just cannot believe it. And how you engage with this and a developing country like China, and you encourage your government to, and working with them, and to promote this. And I have to tell you, in New York, and the upper class kids go to the Russian school and math, and my grandson goes to that school, and after school, twice a week, and pay tons of money to that school. And even he go to the New York best boys school, colleges, and he continue go to, my daughter, my son-in-law sent him to the Russian school math. And so I have to tell you, math is very important to our country, kids, and have a very important and the academic future to develop. You talk about AI, talking about technology, everything, math is important. So, and I want you to understand that I appreciate everybody, and we want to work with you and to improve our own country's the public school education, especially, and learn something from another country, how they do it, and how they promote the teachers, how they give teachers the best and opportunity, and how the Singapore and the teacher's salary is much higher than few times ours, and they attract the best people to teach. But in our country, and we can say our teachers has to survive, and this is the big difference. So the teacher is important. We are going to beneficial for them and to teaching our kids. So thank you very much, and I just wanted to thank all of you to come here. And FWE is going to working with you, and we would make the change. Thank you, Ron.
Yay, Cheng.
Thank you, and actually I just want to start also by thanking Cheng and also Susan for just creating these kinds of conversations. They're actually, despite the world being global, they're quite rare that we seriously and dispassionately discuss what we can learn from and with each other in the field. And nothing could be more important. Actually, our surveys show when you actually look at skills in the adult workforce, mathematics is by far the single most important predictor for individual success. More than literacy, more than problem solving, more than almost anything else that we ever measured. So I think it's worth getting this problem right. What I also think, it's a problem that we can get right. You know, if we were sitting here and debating, you know, how to address climate change, this is really tough. You know, these are really big problems that are actually very, very hard to address, you know, scientifically, politically, and so on. But we are discussing a problem that is actually has an answer, and we actually have around the world education systems that deliver a good math education for every child. So it's something that we know can be solved. I think we better get that right. There's sort of three takeaways from me from this. One is around science, very clear. The second is around science, getting the science of all of this right. The second is about the social capital, how we build the kind of social fabric of a good education system. And the third is about, you know, the political economy. On the science, there are areas where I think we can be really optimistic, and that is about, you know, curriculum, the instruction system. This is something people will figure out. How we best learn mathematics, who learns best in what context. At the moment, it's an art. In the future, there's going to be a science. And big data systems, if we can't figure that out as humans, big data is going to tell us this answer. You know, once we collect actually data, more data about how students learn, we're going to be actually able to understand what kind of learning sequences and so work out well. I think curriculum is, I think, something that, you know, and there's also a lot we can learn from the world. You know, whether you call it Singapore math, it's actually just well-researched math. It's probably not even invented in Singapore. You know, I would make a bet that the Singaporeans were just very, very good in studying who teaches math very well and then building that into their system in a coherent way. So I think science-based math, and I think we can do that. That's the easy part. The harder part is clearly teachers. We talked about it, and this is, you know, the long haul, the one where you cannot have any quick fixes. If you think, you know, there's going to be a spaceship that brings you new teachers, good luck, you know. And I think many of our policies are built on that premise. We somehow hope, you know, and even if you have, you know, new teachers today, you're going to replace your teaching workforce over 40 years. So I mean, by then, those initiatives will be long forgotten. So the only way in a fast-changing world is to invest in the people and upgrade and upskilling and reskilling. It's not just for teachers, it's everyone. That is hard to do, but if you listen to Cheng, you know, if you actually forget that he is, you know, from China, if you just listen to what he says, what he presents, that kind of approach could be used anywhere in the world, because it's a science-based approach on how do we actually develop teachers at scale in a meaningful way. They don't pick up, you know, amazingly brilliant people. Actually, if you talk to people in Shanghai, they're not recruiting people from the top end of the graduate distribution. They have actually big issues of, you know, finding people, but they're doing a very systematic effort to make sure that every one of them succeeds, and they're recognizing the way in which they are developed. You know, they make it attractive for people to invest in their own careers. You saw those 4 stages. You know, at the end, you are called professor. You're part of the people who actually frame the system, and that is what makes the work intellectually attractive. Right? Yes, I agree we should make teaching financially more attractive, but we should do a lot more to make teaching intellectually more attractive, to build more interesting careers, more opportunities for professional collaboration. And I think actually, you listen to his presentation, there's nothing Chinese in that. That is simply just well thought through. How do we can build the teaching workforce in the most success? And I think we need more of this. I think, Cheng, the kind of conversations we bring together is one that, you know, we should find ways to extrapolate from. So that's about the science. You know, I actually think there's a lot that we can do now. On the social capital, that's also hard. You know, how do you raise the status of the teaching profession? How you build stronger links among the teaching force? You know, I actually think, again, this is our best vaccine against political volatility. The stronger you have as a profession, the less you will let people, you know, mess with that. And I think you're building, you know, a stronger kind of profession, building stronger relationships among schools. You know, again, you know, this debate of whether you make decisions at the district level or the state level or the federal level becomes pretty irrelevant once you have people as a profession. And nobody in medicine, nobody would worry, you know, where does medical policy get established? You know, at the federal level, at the state level, people don't, because we have medical practitioners who are connected with each other. They're, by the way, also really well connected globally. We could learn a lot from how people in science and medicine work across borders, learn, compete and collaborate at the very same time. You know, I think this is something building stronger networks, better social capital, building more trust that we can actually learn things from each other. I think we have to start at that as well. There's often, you know, the idea, well, you know, you look different from me, so I can't learn from you. And I think in the teaching profession, there's a lot that we can actually leverage here. The final part is the hardest one. That's, we touched on this in many ways. It's about the political economy of change. And that really, I think we will only address when we better understand the symmetries and asymmetries between those who gain and those who lose from political decisions. And it's really hard. You know, I think we have to acknowledge, and change is hard for anyone. Nobody likes to change their current practice. It comes with a cost for the individual, for the institution, and I think that understanding the asymmetries between understanding the time lags. You know, unfortunately, if you want to change something, you have to pay now. You have to take the risk now, and it's certain that you have to pay, whereas the benefits are uncertain. The benefits are out in the future. And I think this is what is the hardest thing for humans, to find a better balance between the present and the future. And we have done a bad job on the climate front. You know, that is the most sort of clearest area, but we have not done a much better job on the financial front. That's why our economies are so heavily indebted, because it's so easy to spend the money of the children. And the same is what we're doing on the education front. I think as humans, we need to sort of deal with this political economy question, finding better balances between the present and the future. But again, I think the stronger science of all of this, the stronger the profession, the stronger education is as narrative in our societies. You know, our grandparents probably understood that better. For them, education had a more direct link to their economic and social outcomes than it is for us. We're quite well shielded these days from this. And I think, again, you know, if you look around the world, as I showed this morning, you know, natural resources actually work against you. It's a very clear negative relationship between natural resource endowment and success or PISA or any kind of educational outcomes. But the best, you know, guarantee for us is to understand that we have to live by our minds rather than, you know, what we dig out from the ground. Understanding that education matters is incredibly important, and that has to do with, you know, the message that we send to society. Now, would you want your child to become a teacher, or you want to your child to be something else? And I think the message that we create, that we send about the present and the future is perhaps, you know, the hardest part of the puzzle. And this is the only area where I accept that there are differences across countries in cultures. You do have cultures who value the future more than the present, you know, who invest in education in tomorrow's world more than they invest in consumption today. There are other countries where that is not the case. That's probably the one area where culture could actually really matter. But even there, you know, I'm always thinking that we can do things across countries. Even there, you know, I would ask, to what extent is that culture inherited by the past or created by what we do with the children in schools today? So again, Cheng, thank you for putting this together, and I really think we should find ways to bring that to scale.
Thank you.